Hello, my name is Chris Thananki, a biochemistry placement student, and this is Day in My Life. First things first, I put my lab coat on. Every morning we have a huddle to discuss itinerary for the day, including staffing issues, instrument issues, and so forth. These last couple of days we've been having some trouble with our mass spectrometers. Today I'm on sick call. However, as a trainee I'm unable to conduct first checks for this assay as it involves complex interpretation of ion peaks, so I'll watch a registered BMS conducted. Then we have first check for IIT and TSH, which I can do. First, I'll have a look at the plate to see if there are any error messages. Then I'll have a look at the calibration curve to see if the intercepts and line is all well. I'll then have a look at the points for QC, making sure that they are within their standard deviations as well as no irregular spikes or dips. As we can see, QC1 had a big spike not too long ago. Then I'll have a look at the patient samples to look for any raised or flagged results. Here we have a retest where the initial sample may have been flagged as high and is then punched again. I then enter the results into a check sheet where the initial result will have been recorded to track the progress. Now it's time to check for samples. First off, I start by printing out the outstanding list from Hive. These are sorted by receive date to ensure samples are processed within their turnaround time. I then check samples that are ordered in the rack against the outstanding list. Here I am checking that the MRI number and the patient name matches. I then sort the samples collected from the previous afternoon. Before heading to Clinical Sciences building, I'll have a look on the notice board to see if any samples need to be returned and if so, where to. I then check the sample handover sheet to see if there are any samples that I must look for. Now I head over. First stop being specialist biochemistry, and then we head to auto lab. We've got our samples and the samples I was looking for. Time to head back. After samples, I had a moving and handling training session, which helped me develop professionally. Now it's time for the cone clean. Firstly, I make sure that the mass spec is not running, and then I stop the flow of gas. I then take out the module holding the cone and separate them into their components. I then give the housing a quick clean using the cone wash with swabs. After the cone has cooled, I will place the components in the cone wash beaker very carefully and add some cone wash. I'll then put this into the sonicator for 10 minutes. After the first wash is done, I'll give the cone an inspection with this eyepiece to check for any imperfections in the cone, as it is essential that there is no damage to the cone, as this affects the assay quite badly due to the electrospray not being performed as it should. I then put the cone for a wash with deionized water for 5 minutes, and then methanol for another 5 minutes. After the wash is done, I have to let it dry. Now that it's dry, I'll reassemble the module, making sure the ring is placed on tightly and place it back into the mass spec. At this point, I make sure all the reagents are sufficient and are in date. Now I take the buffer reagents out of the -80 degrees freezer, wearing the appropriate PPE, and label some universal tubes according to the reagents. I then add 12 ml of deionized water into each tube and then add the reagents into the corresponding tubes and give them a mix. Then I wait for my sickle plate to be punched. Now I check the plate for any irregularities, such as missing spots or damaged spots. I then add IS- trypsin, which is reagent 1, using reverse pipetting to the correct wells, following a plate map that is set out depending on the plate number, and then I add normal trypsin to the appropriate wells. After the reagent has been added, I put the plate mat back on ready for centrifuging, ensuring a tight seal. I then do the same for the second plate. adjusting my positioning of the reagents as the plate number has changed. Now I put it in the centrifuge at 1500 rpm for 2 minutes. After the centrifuge, it goes on the plate shaker at 37 degrees for 40 minutes, and then I send the work list over to the mass spec computers. In the meantime, I'll do some portfolio work. Now that the shaking is done, it's time to add some stop solution into every well using a repeater pipette. And then I add a clear seal on top of the plate, ensuring each well has a good seal on it. I put the plate into the centrifuge again, but this time at 4400 rpm for 10 minutes. Usually during this time I would proceed with the startup, but as the mass spec is being run back to back with the department we work closely with, they have already completed the startup, so I set up my work list during the meantime. After the plate is done centrifuging, I load the plate into the tower and press play. I then check the status of everything, making sure all is running as it should, and that's the end of the assay.